Today we get to work on something extra lovely. That's right, we're having issues with the old poop screw. I think it's actually called a compactor, but I mean, it's a giant screw full of poo. But anyway, it has these spray nozzles at the end, and they're not nozzling. So, there's where the poop goes, in case you were wondering. So let's throw her in hand and see if anything happens. Or doesn't happen. Well, the auger certainly seems to be working. I know you don't have smell-o-vision, but I assure you, it smells like freshly baked bread. More importantly, though, our sprayers have a weak stream. I think they need to get their prostate checked. So the sprayers are controlled by this little solenoid, so we're going to go ahead and open up the electrical connections and see what we got. Looks like we got some good old-fashioned wire nuts, but I'm going to go ahead and change them out to make this easier. There we go. Sure, these are explosion-proof rated, but they do allow me to connect my meter hands-free because I refuse to get new alligator clips for some reason. This is a 120-volt AC solenoid, so we'll go ahead and see if we're getting any voltage. Excuse my multimeter, it's still waking up. There we go, ready to test. With the system in hand, the solenoid cycles open and closed. As you can see, we got our 120 volts, but still barely any water. That being said, I'd like to force the solenoid to stay open or energized. That way I can see if the pressure ever gets any better. So let's visit the old control cabinet and see what we got. There's a lot going on in here, but all we need to worry about is that solenoid. So just don't get overwhelmed. Focus on the task at hand.
I'm freaking out, man.
And lucky for me, some absolute legend laminated and left a set of prints in here. There's our solenoid, our flush water, goes through a relay, wire 1501 and 1502. So we'll start there. The plan is simple. I'm going to jump this thing out regardless of the consequences. I'm just kidding. I actually did trace this out. It doesn't go to anything else except that solenoid. And this is not a safety feature. It literally just sprays water on the poo screw. And there's a drain, even if it gets stuck on. It's really not going to hurt anything. They did have this fuse in series with the circuit. I'm going to pull that just so that when I jump it out, there is no load on the circuit. Not that I would ever do it hot, but if you were to do that, you won't have as much sparky. There we go. There's my beautiful jumper. I always make them ugly so that I don't forget about them and that they are obvious. Pop our fuse back in. I'm never not going to do that, just so you know. I don't care how played out it is. There we go, 120 volts constant on our solenoid, but we're still trickling. Now, obviously, this could have been a pressure issue on the line side of the solenoid, but there's another one right down there, and it is working fine, so I don't think that's the issue. They are sharing the same line coming in, so it does appear to be the solenoid itself. It also would have been nice if they had a bypass, because then I could just bypass it and see if we had pressure, but they didn't. I'm going to take this fuse out, and for my lockout tag out, now no one can turn it on. And apparently someone did anticipate this, because there's a whole pile of solenoids on top of this control cabinet. Of course, this system does use a lot of these, so thankfully, I didn't even have to order anything. For once. It does appear to be the same solenoid valve, except it's all shiny and pretty. Now, obviously, I probably could have just replaced the coil on this, and I could probably also take the valve apart and maybe fix it, but since we have so many, I'm going to go full caveman and just replace it. Also, it's a very corrosive environment, and also I have the suspicion that this coil has already been switched out, so I think it's about time we give the valve some love. Undo these standoffs, and it's time to play plumber. Watch out, everybody. Thankfully, even though this valve is hard piped in, this little backflow preventer or check valve thing has a union on it, so I am able to unscrew it back there, and then just undo the rest. This is fed with non-potable water, so don't drink it if you get thirsty. If you couldn't tell, this is all Schedule 80 PVC, so it's slightly harder for me to destroy with my channel locks, which made it a little bit easier. And there we go. Got our valve off. I really don't know what I'm looking at in there, but it looks a little crusty. I don't know. I'm going to say it's bad, but we will find out shortly. Either way, it's getting replaced because I'm not going back in that dumpster to find it. There's our shiny new one. This does have an in and an out, so you got to get that right. We want the water to flow right to left, so keep that in mind. I did replace the tape on my threads. I didn't do tape and dope like I normally do because I don't have any pipe dope with me, but I'm also not a plumber. Probably shouldn't even be touching this.
Stop touching things.
If it doesn't leak though, I feel like that's a success. And if it does leak, below this is the wet well, which is basically a giant sump pit. And it's really not a big deal if water gets down there. That would be the cleanest thing that got down there. So that's part of the reason I'm willing to take this on, because, it's not like there's a downstairs apartment I'm going to flood. Now that we got the valve itself replaced, going to go ahead and replace the coil, just like that. Once again, not getting that back. It's going where the other one went. There's our shiny new coil installed. Pretty simple, only 3 wires to deal with. And, these clips can be kind of a pain in the butt, but it went on pretty easy. I did double check the voltage on it. Probably should have done that before I went through all this, but it's 120 volts, so we are good to go. Wire up our little red wires in our Wagos, which took about 2 seconds, because they're Wagos. Screw our cover back on as tight as humanly possible, so we can never get it back off. Probably should have greased those threads. They make special grease for those threads. There's a solenoid installed. Fuse back in. I still have my jumper installed, so it'll be easy to see if it's working. And already, that is a good sign. I'm getting splashed with questionable water. And look at that flow. You could wash your lettuce in there. I wouldn't recommend it, though. Now we got a real poop smoothie going on. This normally doesn't stay on, so this is more water than normal. But like I said, there's a drain at both ends. Take our jumper out now that we know that's working. Close up the electrical cabinet. And then we can just throw everything back in automatic and see if it actually works properly. And thankfully it did. It came on and off when it was supposed to, which means the relay, the PLC, even the graphic are working. And the pressure stayed good, so I think we're good to go. Now we just have to see how long it takes that other one to take a crap, since it's about the same age. See you on the next one.